Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to French Dip Empire. This is the Empress, and we are back with number 4 in our series of the Menendez brothers trial articles written by writer Dominick Dunne, who is no longer with us, but when he was writing for Vanity Fair magazine, and this is back in the 90s. So we're going on a little trip back in time I've been reading these articles one after the other, sort of an as it happened kind of experience. And for me, because even though I'm pretty sure I would have read these articles back when they were being published in the actual paper magazine, Vanity Fair, I have not read them since. And the first article, which we read on stream number 1, was published all the way back in October 1990. And today's article is from April 1994. And what was going on at that point in the Menendez brothers saga was they had been convicted at their first trial, or trials. It was a joint trial with 2 juries, one for each of the accused and then convicted. Excuse me. And at this point, they are looking to go into a retrial. I guess it was a retrial or appeal, but their second trial. And so I'm going to throw it over to the article itself. This is today's article from the March 1994, or I'm sorry, April 1994 issue. Excuse me. Yesterday's article was from, or not yesterday's, last stream's article was from March 1994. So this is a month later. Just to go back, let's see, this was the first article, Nightmare on Elm Drive, that was from 1990, before the first trial had even started. Then the second stream that we did was for this article, which was from 1993, and that's Dominick Dunne, the late author. And then the last stream was on this article, Menendez Justice. So if you want to catch up with the previous articles, go back and watch those streams. You can watch them in order and go through the process that Dominick Dunne and the readers of Vanity Fair, including myself at that time, were going through, following along. And now today's article is Menendez withdrawal. And if you're here, do me a favor. If you're here for the stream, take a moment to like and subscribe that. And hey, leave a comment if you're signed in. And if you're not, go ahead, sign in. Say hi. And that helps other people to find the stream and enjoy articles just like this. So here we go. Menendez withdrawal. As Erik and Lyle Menendez await round 2, their lawyers, jurors, relatives, and adversaries can't stop slugging it out over the original trial. Okay, I know it says March 4, 2015 down here, but that apparently was the date that Vanity Fair uploaded this article to their digital archives online. There's also, as you can see, it says April 1994 issue from the magazine. So here we go, and this is a page. The illustration here is a page from the actual Vanity Fair magazine, and that would be Leslie Abramson, the defense attorney for, Lyle, Erik. I always confuse the 2 brothers, even though they don't look exactly alike. One has blue eyes, one has brown eyes, one has a head full of hair. The other one, well, sometimes has a toupee. Sometimes he's getting it slapped off of his head, as we read in, I think, the second article. And his hair situation was certainly discussed at length in Article 3. Dominick Dunne really went to town on that subject on the last article we read on last stream. So anyway, 1 second. A little sip of my tea. And we start off with a quote. What if Oedipus went on trial in Los Angeles for emming his father? Unaliving his father. He would claim years of abuse, invoke self-defense, and move to acquit. Welcome to American Justice, 90s Style. Charles Krauthammer, The Washington Post, January 14, 1994. And just a editor's note, if you will, or broadcaster's note, because of the nature of the subject matter, I am going to verbally edit out some of the more sensitive words and topics and subjects in the that are mentioned in the article for YouTube standards, and also in case anyone listening, if you happen to be around children, if you yourself are sensitive to certain subjects, or maybe are in public or somewhere where you wouldn't want someone to hear something, a little spicy or a little shocking, I'm going to tone the language down. Personally, I would prefer to just read it as is and not edit, but we must do what we must do in order to provide content on YouTube. So here we go. America's bizarre fascination with the Menendez brothers' unaliving of their parents did not end when Lyle Menendez's hung jury resulted in a mistrial 15 days after Erik's hung jury had resulted in one. The airwaves and print media became saturated with opinion makers offering both admiration and outrage over the audacity of the defense tactic of abuse excuse. Dateline, Now, Primetime Live, 2020, Nightline, Larry King Live, and Court TV devoted segments or entire shows to the trial's astonishing denouement, as did the less prestigious but highly popular tabloid and chat shows. No one was more visible or more vocal than the old scene stealer Leslie Abramson, the head of the defense team, who, continuing her march toward glory and national recognition, was thought by many to control the media for the week following the trial in the way she had controlled the courtroom for the 6 months of the trial itself. Well, she didn't control it so much that she actually won the case. She did not. So, not fully in control, I would say. Okay, back to the article. True to form, she charmed as many people as she angered. Outside the courthouse in Van Nuys, she claimed that her client, Erik Menendez, once an heir to the $14 million fortune of the parents he and his brother had SG'd to death, the manner of unaliving them with the long guns. It's so difficult to know what is allowable and what isn't allowable on YouTube, so I'm trying my best. Bear with me, thanks. Back to the article. Okay, was now indigent. Erik was now indigent. She asked on television for donations to the Erik Menendez Legal Defense Fund for the next trial, and said that checks should be mailed to her office on Wilshire Boulevard. The request, this was the days before GoFundMe, of course. The days before, I guess, wide internet, or any internet. What year is this? 1994. Okay, back to the article. The request was looked upon as tasteless by many of those court watchers in the Van Nuys area who had lost their homes and belongings a few days earlier in the earthquake. Oh yes, they mentioned how terrible this earthquake was in the previous article, which we read on the previous stream, and were badly in need of aid themselves. With great fanfare, Abramson took under her wing 4 women on Erik's jury who had voted for manslaughter rather than first-degree murder, and 2 sympathetic alternates, publicly calling them "my jurors." She entertained them at an elaborate 7-hour dinner party in her new home in the fashionable Hancock Park area of Los Angeles. After the roast beef dinner, I guess no vegetarians or vegans there, her juror guests were allowed to speak with Erik Menendez himself, who telephoned from the Los Angeles County Jail. This is also weird and inappropriate regardless of how you feel about the case. Very odd. One guest later recalled for a Los Angeles newspaper her impressions of Erik from her telephone conversation with him. He's bright. He's funny. He's a nice guy. Okay. For Jose and Kitty Menendez, the dead parents, there seemed to be not a moment's thought. All right, continuing. Oh, 1 second. Thereafter, Abramson became the personal booking agent for her jurors, advising them which TV shows to appear on and which ones not to appear on. She told her 6 not to attend a press conference set up in the courthouse at which all the media representatives who had attended the trial would have been able to question them. Instead, she arranged a private press conference in which certain members of the media, handpicked by her, were invited to participate. Although Barbara Walters was unavailable to interview them, Abramson booked her jurors on 2020. Also appearing on that program, but for only the briefest moment, was the comely Jill Lansing, Lyle Menendez's attorney, who had gone greatly underpraised for her Herculean defense efforts on behalf of Lyle, who had been expected to be the hard sell of the two brothers. Indeed, after scrupulously avoiding the media throughout the trial, Lansing made a single foray in front of the microphones and cameras on the afternoon of Lyle's mistrial. Abramson stood guard like a mother hen and even answered one of the questions addressed to Lansing. After Lansing gave her an irritated glance at her interference, Abramson withdrew from her co-counsel's moment of recognition. Well, that was gracious of her, wasn't it? On February 1, Abramson was quoted in the Los Angeles Daily Journal by Mary Jane Stevenson, who had been invited to the private press conference of Abramson's jurors, as saying, after declining to appear on the Phil Donahue show, "I'm not going on anything where there's opposition. I'm calling the shots now." Well, Stevenson also reported that Abramson had claimed that if she had been able to conduct the jury selection, known as voir dire, she could have purged the jury of the men who voted for murder. Yes, Dominick Dunne mentioned in, I can't remember if it was article number 3 or article number 2, that the jurors seemed to fall, or I guess people in general. I don't remember if it was the jurors specifically or the spectators. It might have just been the general spectators in the courtroom, because at the time he would not have, well, at this time I guess he could have spoken to the jurors, but at the time of the second and third articles he would not have. But it seemed as though the perceptions of guilt or innocence of the two, excuse me, or I guess it's not innocence, it's whether it was a justified homicide or not, depended on the gender. That women tended to believe more that they should be let off, and that men tended to think that they should be held responsible for, that they should be sent to jail. Okay, back to the article, as soon as I can find my place. Here we go. But since the passage of Proposition 115 in California in 1990, potential jurors fill out a questionnaire, and the questioning of the jury is in the hands of the judge. Interesting. Abramson, according to Stevenson, has signed up her jurors for a crusade to tell television audiences that the brothers' story was compelling enough to convince 6 of Erik jurors and 6 of Lyle's to vote for manslaughter. Okay. Meanwhile, Menendez withdrawal has set in. People who lived and breathed the case for 6 months could not bear to let go, and many of them have kept up telephone contact. Shortly after the trial came to an end, a small group of pro-defense court watchers began meeting for lunch in the restaurants the brothers had mentioned during the trial. Odd. It's odd. It's odd that they would want to do that, and it's also odd product placement for these restaurants. And I'm sure someone who works in their marketing department is thrilled, or was. Okay, and I wonder if they would be getting any more of a resurgence from it being mentioned again, that the Menendez brothers case is being mentioned again, and would, well, for example, the Cheesecake Factory in Beverly Hills. Oh my goodness, they have a Cheesecake Factory in Beverly Hills, or they did. That seems so un-Beverly Hills. Is that part of the slums of Beverly Hills that I've heard about? I don't know. Okay, the Cheesecake Factory in Beverly Hills, where Lyle had asked a friend to meet him and his brother on the night of the unalivings, as part of their alibi. The Bagel Nosh, where Erik had gone with Dr. Oziel before his confession. And Hamburger Hamlet, where Jose had taken his sons and Lyle's then-girlfriend, Tracy Baker, on the night the brothers claimed their father suspected their mother of trying to poison her family. And we heard about that in the last article on the last stream. Continuing, other less publicized jurors have also spoken up. No one had more to say than Jude Nelson, not Judd Nelson, but Jude Nelson, a member of Lyle Menendez's jury, who had voted for M, the bad unaliving, in the first degree. Like many jurors, he maintained that the jury instructions had been too complicated, an assertion agreed with by the renowned defense attorney, Alan Dershowitz, when he and I appeared as part of a panel on Ted Koppel's Nightline to discuss the abuse excuse defense. And perhaps it's worth noting that at this point in time, Dershowitz, I think, was still primarily known as a brilliant legal scholar and writer and, not spokesperson, but a public media figure. He would, opine on legal matters on television all the time. He was not yet tainted in anyone's mind by associations with other less savory characters, shall we say, without getting into the details. We don't need to go there. Okay, back to the article. Jude Nelson, also believed that the foreman of the Lyle jury would have leaned toward outright acquittal if that option had been available to them. Wow. He said that other jurors absolutely bought into the foreman's every word. Ruth Slike, I think that says, another juror on the panel, confirmed this. Nelson, a gregarious and colorful figure who plays Santa Claus every Christmas at orphanages and hospitals, that is colorful, told me over lunch at a restaurant near his home in Sylmar that he had donned his Santa Claus outfit during Christmas week jury deliberations and handed out candy canes to his fellow jurors. Weird, kind of charming, kind of weird. He also told me that 5 times during the trial, he had to go before Judge Weisberg after other jury members had sent notes to the judge trying to get him thrown off the jury. Okay, why? I have to admit, I would like to know why, and Dominick Dunne does not tell us. Why? Ugh, come on, Dominick. Okay. Craig Signorelli, movie of the week. It's too bad I don't see you here in the chat, because this is our good friend movie of the week's favorite character in the whole trial scenario. Craig Signorelli, the alleged Tom Cruise lookalike, whose picture I always want to pull up whenever he comes up, because he was described as looking like Tom Cruise. You be the judge. Well, I think this is a more recent photo. Here he was at trial. And actually, these are stills from Court TV, and I have been watching in the interim between article number 3 and the current article that we're reading. I've been watching some clips on Court TV, and this, I'm showing the page on Court TV that I've been watching, the clips from the first trial, and boy, they are fun, actually getting to see some of these characters in action. I highly recommend, if you have not seen it, go to courttv.com and watch some of these clips if you have the time. Oh, I don't need that pop up. Thank you. Okay, back to the article. Craig Signorelli, who had once been Erik Menendez's best friend, as well as his co-author on the screenplay Friends, in which a young man unalives his parents with a SG for his inheritance, a bang bang, took the stand during the trial as a witness for the prosecution. He claimed that Erik had confessed to him shortly after the memorial service for Jose and Kitty Menendez that he and Lyle had unalived their parents. Following the mistrials, Signorelli said to me, "If they get out of jail, I plan to get out of town." I wonder if he's still planning on getting out of town, if they indeed get out of, well, I suppose it's prison, not jail. Back to the article. Consternation in the Menendez defense team and family circle was caused by the revelation in this magazine, Vanity Fair, of the existence of a photocopy of a letter written by Lyle from jail to the witness, Tracy Baker, telling her what to say on the stand. Okay, this was mentioned in the previous article. Abramson claimed in a Los Angeles paper that I had been fed the pseudo-evidence by the prosecution, which is totally untrue. If the prosecution had been in possession of the letter, they would presumably have used it in the trial, not handed it over to a reporter. Well, if they were doing everything above board, of course. Abramson then qualified her statement. I don't know for a fact that they, meaning the prosecution, are the source of this nonsense that Mr. Dunne is talking about, but I suspect they may be. Okay. Good to CYA. Cover one's you-know-what. When Abramson was asked by Terry Moran of Court TV to appear on a show with me, she declined, calling me that hack romance novelist, a word for the male anatomy that rhymes with quick and has the same number of letters. You get what I mean. Later, there was an allegation by the defense that the handwriting in the letter I described in my last article was not Lyle's, an allegation repeated by the writer Robert Rand when he and I took part in a pilot for a CBS Court TV radio show conducted by Greg Jarrett. Marty Shelton, a young woman from Virginia who had been in constant telephone contact with Lyle Menendez throughout the trial, later told me that there had been conversation, which she had overheard, about putting the blame for the entire letter incident on a woman who had fallen out of favor with Lyle. The idea was to say that this woman was Lyle's jilted lover, that she had learned to copy his handwriting perfectly, and that she wanted to use whatever money could be raised from the letter to invest in a business venture. Well, that's quite a plot. Okay, continuing. Marty Shelton, that's Marty with an I, contacted me after seeing me appear on Court TV in conjunction with my last article on the Menendez case, which we read in its entirety on the last stream. She told me that she was an abuse victim. Lyle's calls to her, she said, were routed through a friend of Lyle's who lives in Beverly Hills. Shelton had been a staunch advocate of Lyle Menendez's and had believed totally that he, too, had been abused. During their telephone friendship, she had revealed things to him about the abuse she said she had suffered, which she had never told anyone else. She found him to be a sympathetic, understanding listener. Shelton, 29, a working single mother with a 2-year-old son. Oh, honey, I hope you're making better choices. You have to raise your child. You shouldn't be calling prisoners. It seems, unless you're related to them, perhaps, but sounds a bit dicey, a proposition. I wonder whatever happened to Ms. Shelton. She had begun to raise money for Lyle. Sweetheart, I think you need money for your baby, not for someone else's grown child. However, on the night that his mistrial was declared, she claims, a very different aspect of Lyle's personality emerged. An aspect that she did not care for. It was not the fact that he was joyous over the outcome that she understood. It was that a cockiness and an arrogance that she had not noticed before began to surface. She told me that she felt shock, disbelief, and betrayal when she heard Lyle laugh and say to the other person on the three-way hookup, not that kind, the telephone kind, "We've snowed half the country. Now we have to snow the other half." Shelton said, "I felt as if I had been duped." She did not reveal her altered feelings at the time and continued to talk to Lyle for a while after that, until she felt she was sure. How much time do you need, lady? Poor girl. Well, she was young. Sort of. Okay. When a Menendez relative called to try to convince her that Lyle often said things he didn't mean, she decided to go public. This is all so odd. Okay, so just a little note that I'm putting in. The idea of cockiness and arrogance. Not shocking in the least when I have been watching these court TV segments. Some of the friends that have testified on behalf, or I'm actually not sure always which side, the defense or the prosecution, that each witness was testifying on for. But the Menendez brothers' friends and associates, some of them pretty obviously had that, you could tell, the cockiness, the arrogance, some people laughed inappropriately, I felt, on the stand at times that might have conveyed a bit of cockiness or arrogance to, say, the jury or spectators. Now, hey, some people laugh when they're nervous, and I don't mean to single anyone out, because as a matter of fact, there were a few people who testified. I'm not sure. Okay, that was one of the tennis instructors. That was one of the friends, this guy. Some of these people were a bit more sympathetic than others. This guy right here, Glenn Stevens. The other guy was Donovan Goudreau. I did not mean to click on that. I do not want to play a court TV video. Anyway, I'm not singling any of them out or saying it's one or the other or any or all of them, but I definitely am familiar with the vibe, the milieu, and that type of a guy. And I can definitely see the cockiness, the arrogance. Not saying all of them, but, and again, they were young. People can grow. People can change. Not making any slanderous allegations, that's for sure. Back to the article. So back to Marty with an I. Shelton heard Lyle laugh and say, "Okay, we've snowed half the country. Now we have to snow the other half." A Los Angeles radio station asked me to debate Henry Yanio, a distant cousin of Jose Menendez's on his mother's side. Yanio, I hope I'm saying that correctly, had been almost unknown to the Menendez family until the Kayings, the unalivings, took place, at which time he moved into their inner circle and became something of a family spokesperson, although his presence and frequent appearances on television shows were known to irritate some family members. Yanio, a sometimes pleasant and sometimes highly excitable person, has a propensity to go into rages when people do not agree with his views on the case. Again, this is Dominick Dunne writing this. This isn't my estimation of this man. And of course, this is from 1994 or so, 30 years ago. Back to the article. I declined the offer of the debate, but I told a third person who was in contact with Yanio that I would be happy to talk to him on the telephone. In our unpleasant conversation, he berated me for the article I wrote for this magazine last month, which he said he had not read and never intended to read. Well, he doesn't have to read it. He can listen to me read it on my last stream. He claimed that I had spread lies about Lyle and Erik, specifically about their telephone privileges in jail. Okay, that was actually a really weird one. In the last article, which we read on the last stream, Dominick Dunne mentioned this elaborate telephone setup with the Menendez's grandmother, I think, or a friend. The grandmother was involved, and then they would have someone call this person, someone call that person. They had these weird unlisted telephone numbers or something like that. It was all very strange and odd to figure that this was going on, that the prison was allowing this, because supposedly it was set up, the system was set up so that they could speak about things without anyone hearing what they were saying, but presumably any phone call going out on a prison telephone line, regardless of where it got routed to after that, would be recorded by the prison, I would think, or jail, prison, whichever, both. But I don't know. Anyway, back to the article. He accused me of making money off his family's tragedy by writing about it. "You're in this for the money," he screamed. Well, sure, so many people are, aren't they? Shortly thereafter, the 5 hours a day telephone privileges accorded the Menendez brothers in jail were revoked. Oops. They were able to use the telephone for only 20 minutes a day, just like any other prisoners. Why did they have special privileges to begin with? Their cells were searched. Their letters were read. Even before they lost their telephone privileges, the Menendez brothers had apparently become estranged from each other. Two people in telephone contact with Lyle told me that he felt he had been betrayed by his brother because Erik had not stopped Leslie Abramson in her closing argument from seeming to heap all the blame for the vicious unaliving of their parents on Lyle. Well, to be fair, I don't think you can stop Leslie Abramson from doing pretty much anything that she wants to do. Maybe the judge, because the judge controls the courtroom, but even then, Leslie's a force of nature. And that's why she got the big bucks. I guess she is retired from legal practice now, it seems to be. She is, I believe, 81 right now. So if she is in retirement, certainly she has earned it. Okay, back to the article. Soon, a date for a retrial will be set. The speculation is that it will begin in July or August, some say as early as May, and take place in downtown Los Angeles, not Van Nuys. There is further speculation that there will be a new judge and a new prosecution team. The probability is that Leslie Abramson, after her spectacular performance in Van Nuys, will continue as Erik's lawyer. I thought I had heard that she did do the second trial, but did it because he could not afford her fee. She somehow managed to be allowed to be paid as a public defender, like the public defender. I think I mentioned this on one of the previous streams. I do not know if it is true. If it is, let me know. If it is not, correct me if I am wrong, but that I guess they use the taxpayers' money to pay for the, public defenders, and I guess she doesn't ordinarily work as a public defender at public defender rates, but in this case she did. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true, though. Would not want to spread lies. Okay, continuing with the article. In the event that the brothers are as indigent as Abramson has portrayed them to be, and their relatives are unwilling to put up any more money for their defense, the state of California would have to appoint lawyers to the case. The state will never pay Abramson the kind of money she was paid for the original trial. Should she decline the state's offer, they will then appoint public defenders to represent the brothers in round 2. So there you go, I guess. That's how that worked out. She did accept the state's offer, I suppose. In the meantime, Abramson is on to another case. She is slated to defend Herbert Foss, a lawyer charged with several counts of, oh good lord, not good, terrible, emming, not unaliving, but interfering with, shall we say, a boy in his early teens. a crime not unlike that which she accused the dead Jose Menendez of perpetrating on his children. Whew. Although there are many advocates out there of the abuse excuse way of thinking, which absolves a person who says he or she was abused of any responsibility for even the most heinous of crimes, I sense that there are as many or more people throughout the country who are violently opposed to and deeply upset by this new legal turn of events. Of course, this is Dominick Dunne opining in his article. From his jail cell, Lyle Menendez continues to answer his voluminous fan mail with a typed form letter on stationery bearing the monogram JLM, as in Joseph Lyle Menendez. So his first name was actually Joseph, but he decided to opt for the middle name, Lyle. I wonder if he ever did J. Lyle Menendez. That sounds very chic, very la-di-da. Okay. On some, he writes a personal note at the bottom. The following is an excerpt from the standard letter sent to Don Kovakovich, who tends to Lyle's toupee needs while he is incarcerated. I'm not making that up. That actually is what it says in the article. It sounds like I'm making a joke. No, his toupee guy. Okay, this is what he writes. As I'm sure you're aware, through your encouraging words, this has been a very difficult and overwhelming time for Erik and myself. The support and concern from our family, friends, and people such as yourself have really made a significant difference in our lives. It has given us hope and has helped us keep our spirits up during this painful time. It is my hope that in your writing to me, you're also voicing your support for so many people that have been abused. My heart goes out to those who have shared their own personal pain with me, and it's reassuring for me that in sharing my own experiences, I may have helped others. We are survivors, capital S, and not alone, exclamation point. Many of you have offered your assistance, and if there is any way you can help, I promise I'll let you know. Okay, that's very cordial. And that is the end of the article. That was shockingly short, considering the first 3 articles were extremely long and extremely detailed. Considering this article was entitled Menendez Withdrawal, I would think that Dominick Dunne would have given us a little bit more to sustain us until the next article, which actually would not be written until 1996. And, you know, that is actually a relatively short one, I think. So I might just go ahead and read that one. But I'm going to take a little break. And since we have a moment between articles right now, I would like to, if you could take a moment, if you're listening, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to, leave a comment or say something in the chat. Every little bit helps to the algorithm, feed the YouTube algorithm so that it can help other people find the stream, find the channel. And if you want to know when we go live, because we don't yet have I'm hoping to develop a regular schedule here for French Dip Empire, but at the moment I'm kind of when I am not busy with other imperial matters, I am doing these streams. And if you look on, if you can read the text on the screen, this was the topic of our first Menendez stream, Nightmare on Elm Drive from 1990. This was the second stream, the Menendez M on a live trial from October 1993. The third one, the last stream, was Menendez Justice from March 1994. And then this is the last one, Three Faces of Evil, which was also about, I think it was Menendez brothers and O.J. Simpson, but I am not going to read the O.J. Simpson half of the article. It's like a half and half article. The first half is Menendez. So I think I will move on and read that in just a moment. But while I've been between streams, there have been some other Menendez articles that have come across my radar, and I'd like to share a couple of those because one is related to something that I discussed, I think maybe on the second stream or maybe the third. And another one is just absolute ridiculousness. And it's just quick, so I'll just go over this quickly. Okay, so the first one is this article from the New York Post, and it is K, as you can see, I don't want to say that. Menendez brothers could make millions selling their story if released early, marketing experts. And this is an article from 3 days ago, October 26, 2024. And this was something that I had speculated. You can see on screen that's the LADA George Gascon at the press conference they had last week. And I had speculated, would the Menendez brothers be allowed to profit in any way off of, well, anything, I suppose, giving interviews, writing a book? Could they do a podcast? Would they be getting, some Netflix bucks, some Spotify cash? Who knows? And would they be allowed to? Because I'm not really sure. There is the Son of Sam law, which supposedly, if you're, I guess, a violent criminal or any kind of criminal, a felon, or simply an unaliver, I'm not sure, that a criminal is not supposed to profit off of their crime. So if you become an infamous criminal, convicted, you should not be allowed to profit. In this case, the Menendez brothers their convictions, I guess, would not be vacated. They would simply be paroled early. Their sentences would be changed, but their convictions would remain. So are they allowed to profit, and to what degree are they allowed to make money? Obviously, if they're released from prison, they can get jobs. They should get jobs and make some money. But what kinds of jobs? Media jobs, of course. The best kind, the easiest kind, the most lucrative kind. So this article says, if a judge grants brothers Lyle and Erik Menendez, and there they are back in the day in their sweaters, an early release from prison, chances are the convicted killers, unalivers, could make millions. But don't expect any Dancing with the Stars invites like socialite con artist Anna Delvey received. Media mavens the Post spoke with said they foresee the brothers, who've been imprisoned for more than 3 decades for the 1989 SG, Long Bang Bang, M's, unalivings, of their parents, Jose and Kitty, fielding multi-million-dollar deals once they're free for everything from their first post-incarceration interview to tell-all books and streaming service documentaries. There you go. I feel as though I could have written the article myself. The Menendez M's, unalivings, are on the Mount Rushmore of high-profile M's, unalivings, in American history, right up there with the JFK assassination, I'll just say it, the Manson and Mansfield Kings, unalivings, and Robert Durst. Mansfield? Okay. Said Doug Eldridge, an agent, celeb branding, and marketing expert. The Menendez story would play very well. One expert even suggests they could cash in on OnlyFans, the infamous social media subscription service. Yeah, I think Menendez Brothers OnlyFans should go into the bin of damned phrases. 2 things, 2 concepts that should not ever come together. No. That sounds so very wrong. And this picture of this lady and a dog underneath that is just odd. Okay, yeah, these 2 guys on this awful ad, I'm really sorry, keeps playing. These 2 guys on OnlyFans, no thank you. I mean, really. British tabloids would pay thousands for the first interview with the brothers out of prison, offered Mitchell Jackson, the founder of PR firm BCC Communications. Fangirls would pay for cameos. If the brothers are really shameless, and they may very well be, their biggest cash grab would come on OnlyFans. Never underestimate what gay men and single women will pay for OnlyFans is where they would make millions, not documentaries. Okay. I missed a period there, and I read the sentence incorrectly, but okay. With society shifting away from cancel culture over the last 4 years, Jackson said there's an opening for the brothers to tell their story. They're getting uncanceled, and now they can make millions. Marketing, nice. You gotta love a marketing guy. Old Hollywood, like Disney-owned companies, will fear the brothers, but the richer, more profitable streamers understand what sells, he added. Traditional Hollywood cares more about their reputations at cocktail parties than ratings. That's why big tech eats Hollywood's lunch. Well, he's not entirely wrong. Both Lyle and Erik Menendez, spelled wrong, Eric with a K, not a C, now in their 50s, will be resentenced at the recommendation of progressive Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon. A judge could decide to release them on parole in the next few weeks. If the Menendez brothers, in fact, rejoin society and remain a part of it, I'd imagine book deals, TV deals, documentaries, and movies will be offered their way, said PR and brand marketing specialist Matt Yanofsky. I'd imagine that brand deals may also be something that come their way, as in today's public world, it seems very little is off limits. When a spotlight is lit, money follows. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. A renewed push to free the brothers followed the recent releases of a documentary and a dramatized series, both on Netflix. It is believed the Menendez brothers lost most believed. Not known? I mean, money is usually tracked. Lost most of the $14.5 million they'd inherited, paying lawyers' fees and court costs. Well, we were told in the last Dominick Dunne article that I just finished reading that they, at least one of the brothers was indigent. At the time of the murders, their parents' mansion had an $864,000 mortgage that had to be paid and was $600,000 in arrears. Unlike New York, California does not prohibit convicts from, financially benefiting from their crimes. I did not realize New York was, Son of Sam law was only New York. There you go. As the Menendez brothers draw closer to potential release, their story has the power to create a financial windfall that could redefine media comeback, explained Rob Shooter, who hosts the Naughty But Nice podcast. Alone, each brother would capitalize heavily on the intrigue and momentum surrounding their case, but together they're poised for a media blitz with a multi-million-dollar ceiling. This is one of the most cynical things I've ever read in my entire life. Shooter further noted the brothers already have the backing of Kim Kardashian. Well, of course, that's a stamp of a distinction, is it not? A powerful endorsement in the Hollywood sphere that could fast-track their media reach. And check this guy out. Look at him. That is some 80s style. And yet it's not a photo from the 80s now, is it? PR maven Doug Eldridge doesn't think the brothers will live a private life after they're released. I'm sorry to be a grammar and vocabulary stickler, but really? They're released? It's either T-H-E-I-R release or T-H-E-Y''I''R. They are released. And this man, well, boy, everyone goes crazy for a sharp-dressed man, huh? That smile. Oof. It's making me think of the testimony that I saw on Court TV from the captain of the shark fishing boat that the Menendez family took the trip on that was mentioned in one of the Dominick Dunne articles. It was kind of curious. I saw the man take the stand, looking very different from this guy, I have to say. He had curly hair and a sort of tropical button-down shirt, and I thought, what on earth is this man about to testify to in a trial such as this? And he was asked his name, and then they said, and what do you do? And he said, I'm the captain of the boat. And I said, of course you are. You look so many of the people who testified in the trial look like they came out of some kind of central casting for, we need a, blank, and we need an Ivy League, something. And then here come these guys. We need a tennis instructor, and then look at the guys who are the tennis instructors. It's uncanny. So anyway, this guy's kind of giving me shark vibes. Back to the article. Expect a wave of branded products from clothing lines to wig collections. Wig collections. Which one is it? Lyle Menendez wig line? Oh my goodness. Oh, it's too good. Okay, that's settled. Now I know what me and my imperial consort will have to go as for Halloween. I already know. I'm going to, let's see, do I have a couple of good pastel sweaters somewhere, and a couple of good wigs, because okay. Back to the article. Watch, oh gosh, by this time next year, expect to see them attending the Met Gala. I wonder what the theme of that gala would be if the Menendez brothers showed up, and who would be their dates. Well, I would say Kim Kardashian should be one of them. Let's bring Leslie Abramson out of retirement. She should get her moment in the sun again. In the chat, I see movie of the week, the Lyle Menendez special. It sounds, the way that the marketing guys think, it's like they're writing sketches. How silly can we make it? Like something that you would see on an old episode of SNL, a Menendez wig. I mean, maybe they even did do an ad parody sketch of that back in the day. I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, but although this is going to lead into the next article, which I have branded pure ridiculousness, before we get into the final Dominick Dunne article. But okay, finishing this one up. Their notoriety could present lucrative money-making opportunities. Yes, you've said that already. In Donald Trump's America, wait, he's not the president yet, or still, or whatever. They're more A-list than Jennifer Lawrence in terms of marketability. Well, to be fair, I can't name the last thing that Jennifer Lawrence did other than maybe have a baby or get pregnant again. But the Menendez brothers have a Netflix special and a Netflix dramatization, and by Ryan Murphy at that. I mean, that's pretty hot. Jackson, the PR head, said, they're a phenomenon right now. They should grab every cash grab they can. The reality is they have few economic prospects outside of the fame economy, and people will lose interest. Very true. In America, a criminal can't work at Costco as a cashier. I'm willing to bet there are probably some people with criminal convictions, or at least a parking ticket or two, that have worked at Costco as cashiers or what have you, and no shade against them, if they've served their time, fine, okay. But they can be a celebrity. Yes, living in America is just started playing in my head. Back to the idea in this article that expect a wave of branded products from clothing lines to wig collections. And that brings me to the next article, which I found to be both unbelievable and ridiculous. And this is also from the New York Post, which is probably my favorite tabloid. It's utter garbage, but it's fantastic at the same time. I kind of wish I could say the Daily Mail is really, really my favorite tabloid, but I have to go with the old hometown favorite, the New York Post. And And my old love of Page Six, which is not what it used to be. Newspaper gossip columns are not what they used to be since the internet has taken over, but I'm still nostalgically fond of it. So this is the article. If you can read the headline, you would know why I think this is absolutely ridiculous. The Menendez brothers serve old money style inspiration for Gen Z. Let's drink that in. Old money style. They were not old money. They were the definition of not old money. So, but I guess as Ralph Lauren has proved time and time again, you don't have to have old money to serve old money style. And so, old money inspo, style inspo from the Menendez bros. Let's see. The article says their style is K, as in unaliver. Ha. 2 people died. Ha, a pun. Erik and Lyle Menendez, the 2 brothers, okay, go away video, convicted for the M, unaliving, of their parents, who are also the subject of the hit series Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story, have become somewhat of style icons after the release of the Ryan Murphy show. Have they really? I haven't noticed that myself, but okay. Movie of the Week writes in the chat, bro, do you even arriviste? Well, yes, sometimes. The Netflix series, which scored over 1.7 billion viewing minutes in the first 4 days of its release. Oh, I love the parsing of viewing minutes. It's not viewers. Oh, I'm so old. I remember when you used to count, ratings were counted in viewers, not viewing minutes. Has propelled actors Cooper Koch, who plays Erik, or maybe it's Cook or Coke. I've heard it all 3. And Nicholas Chavez, who plays Lyle, to heartthrob status. Well, they are a mite better looking than the actual Menendez brothers were. The latter of which is the focus of a New York City-based look-alike contest this weekend. Well, this is an older article, so that would have happened this past weekend. Don't, if you're in the New York area or not, don't book a flight going to join the look-alike contest. It would have been decided already at the time of this stream. And in the chat, Movie of the Week says, I think I had that sweater on the right. Oh, the blue with the green, white, and blue V stripes, the tennis sweater, cable knit, looks lovely. And Movie of the Week also writes, I got it at the Gap, where old money shops. Yes. Yes, where old money shops. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm pausing these awful ads. But the Hollywood hunks have also inspired viewers to adopt the country club chic worn by their characters, whether for everyday wear or just for Halloween. Darn it! People are going to take my brilliant idea now. Oh well, time to come up with a new one. Back to the article. Online, TikTokers are recreating the Menendez brothers' preppy 80s fashion. On TikTok, of course they are. Oh goodness, this is insane. Also dubbed old money style. With polo shirts, popped collars. No, not popped collars. Oh gosh, white slacks, pastel-colored sweaters draped over their shoulders, and aviator shades. Well, I love a good preppy look, so I'm in favor of that. But just for the love of gosh, please don't do what I remember boys doing at one point: the double polo popped collar. Yes, that's right. Wearing a polo on top of another polo and popping both of the collars. Because if one pop collar is awesome, 2 is double awesome, right? Sure. Nope. Look terrible. Pop collars in general look pretty DBE, shall I say, to keep it clean in case a child is listening. Back to the article. On Reddit, fans are attempted to, I think they mean attempting, to source pieces from the series wardrobe. Oh boy. Okay. In the chat, Movie of the Week says, Who the heck is running PR for the Menendez brothers? This is sus AF. It is indeed. There is a big, clearly a big push here, and it's not organic. It's not. But anyway, oh gosh, is there any way to get these awful ads to stop? Read quicker, I suppose. POV, you want to dress like the Menendez brothers a little bit too much after watching the series. A creator named Julian wrote in a video. Oh, okay, Julian in a video. Good source. Where he is dressed in an Oxford button-up layered beneath a knit. Well, they are very clean-cut looking young. Look at them! These two kids are posed in front of the television with the still. I mean, okay, to be really cynical about this, are people going to start buying the SGs that they used to commit the crimes? I mean, you know, the bang bangs, the long bang bangs. I know I'm using childish terminology, and I apologize for that. I don't mean to talk down to anyone listening, but just for YouTube's sake and anyone who may be sensitive or young or child, what have you. But look at these two. I mean, you can get inspiration not from two people who have admitted to doing what they did for whatever, regardless of the reason. This is just dubious style inspo, thank you. Look at this gentleman. Oh, I guess that's Julian. Oh, that's him with his Oxford and his sweater. Okay. Look at this guy. Oh, nice. Viewers of the style videos like that of Vincenzo Melisi, dressed here in garb resembling the Menendez brothers, swooned over the fashion of the late 80s and early 90s. I love this. He looks fantastic. Look at this guy. If this is going to make young dudes dress all you know, well, pretty, I don't want to say swanky. That makes it sound like greasy and gross, but this guy looks awesome. Look at his shoes. Oh, no socks. Oh, awesome. I love it. I actually love this, but not where they're getting their inspiration, but I love that they're dressing like this. It's so cute. Meanwhile, creator Vincenzo Melisi emulated the Beverly Hills brothers fashion with a white polo tee, white pants, a beige sweater tied around his shoulders, and loafers, his curly hair coiffed similar to that of Erik's, prompting viewers to swoon. Well, I'd say his hair looks a mite better than either of the Menendez brothers. Although the story is crazy, Erik and Lyle's fits are not one to play with. A creator who goes by @FashionJFer, maybe, said in a TikTok video, silver linings, right, ladies and gentlemen? You find inspiration, you know, you get your inspiration wherever you find it. As a creator myself, I understand completely, but he applauded the brothers' rich boy style as so clean. Well, until you're spattered with, well, you know, red liquid and other things. And argued that because of the show, their fashion is back in vogue. Well, I'm guessing Ralph Lauren is just over the moon. Nicolas and Emiliano, content creators who are also brothers, this is dangerous, recreated some of the fashion from the series together in a viral video that has scored over 148,000 views, sharing a handful of looks from, from prison garb to the vibrant sweaters. No, pastel. Pastel isn't vibrant. It's cool. It's pale. Vibrant sweaters worn during the scenes of their court appearance. I can't get over this. This is just unbelievable. It's terrible. It's crazy, and I love it. While the overwhelming consensus appears to be positive, many viewers said that they love it. The trend has... I said it. Oh gosh, I feel ashamed of myself. The trend hasn't been well received by all. I can imagine. Oh my gosh, is this from the show? Or is this from the okay, I guess that's from the television show, not from like these TikToker kids. This is weird as F. They are not an aesthetic, one critic wrote in the comments. Can we not? These are real victims, not TV show characters. Y'all truly need to get a grip on reality. chastise another. Can we not role play as the Menendez brothers? It's kind of weird, someone else said. Even LA Times writer Lucia Garcia condemned the fad, writing, by participating in these TikTok trends, users trivialize the tragic events that shape the Menendez brothers' lives. Indeed, Lucia, indeed, they do. Okay, and here they are. That's from the Ryan Murphy show. Okay, they wear their sunglasses indoors. Nice. And that's not the actual Menendez family. That's, again, from the TV show. Okay. The brothers, who alleged in court that their father SA'd them, were convicted on 2 counts of first-degree unaliving after the 1989 unaliving of their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, and were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But in part thanks to the Netflix series, the brothers are not only the focus of wardrobe revamps, but also a celebrity-backed movement to free them from lockup after being behind bars for more than 3 decades. Okay, so old money inspiration to bring back the preppy styles of the 80s. Well, I suppose it's 30 years ago. I guess every 30 years you get a little... the old styles come back again. I guess in the 90s they were kind of pushing like a hippie revamp, nostalgia trip. So now in the excuse me, 2024 we've got 80s. I'm sorry, that would be 40 years. So I guess But wait, it's 80s style, it's 90s style. This isn't very 90s style. This is 80s style, although it was taking place in the 90s, so, or late 80s into the 90s. But, okay, well, I guess it's better than, like, Junko pants and floral dresses over black tights, which was 90s style. So, there is one more article by Dominick Dunne, and it is this one entitled 3 Faces of Evil from June. It says 1966. That is a typo. It is 1996. And let's make sure that it will load. This might take a little... Oh, okay, good. It was fast. Sometimes the archive links are a little slow, but I am going to take a little break, stretch my legs, and refresh my cup of tea before I launch into this article, which again, this is a short one because it's half about the Menendez brothers and, let me scroll down, half about O.J. Simpson, which this says 2008, but as you can see up here, it says, from the magazine, June 1996 issue, 3 Faces of Evil, and by Dominick Dunne. And you've got the Menendez brothers, and there's Happy OJ, who went to meet his maker earlier this year, correct? Yes. So I'm going to take about a 5-minute break, not that long at all. And then when I come back, I am going to read this short article, the last of Dominick Dunne's articles for Vanity Fair that was written in 1996. So... if you have a moment, if you've been here, if you're just tuning in, or if you've been here for a little while, hit that like button, go ahead and subscribe. It'll let you know when we do the next stream. And also, I would always bookmark YouTube channels you like so that you can find them again, just in case YouTube itself does not, it doesn't always let you know when things are coming through. And in case something goes wrong, you'll always have a place to come back and find it. So I'm going on a little break, and we will be back with the Menendez brothers, Dominick Dunne's articles in Vanity Fair in just a moment. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Or welcome me back. This is Friendship Empire, and I am the Empress. We are returning to our exploration of writer Dominick Dunne's articles on the Menendez brothers' trial for Vanity Fair magazine. These were originally published back in the 90s. This has been a multi-part stream. This is part 4. Part 1, we covered the first article in 1990, and now we are up to his last article in June 1996. And this is it, entitled 3 Faces of Evil, Menendez and Simpson. So, without further ado, let's go. 3 Faces of Evil. Following the guilty verdict in LA's other shocking double M, unaliving, the author makes his closing argument on the twisted tale of the Menendez brothers and discovers new pieces of the O.J. Simpson puzzle. And again, we aren't covering that. Let's just read this part. Okay. If I can scroll down. What I have suspected since I became involved with the Los Angeles unaliving trials and O.J. Simpson is that winning is everything, no matter what you have to do to win. If lies have to be told, if defenses have to be created, if juries have to be tampered with in order to weed out those who appear to be unsympathetic to the defendant, then so be it. The name of the game is to beat the system and let the guilty walk free, if you can get away with it. Now, if you weren't already aware, Dominick Dunne was a staunch defender of justice and justice being done, and in his case, he definitely was on the side of victims, unaliving victims, because his daughter, the actress Dominick Dunne, who was in the original Poltergeist, was unalived by her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. I can't remember what he was at that time. And Dominick was not satisfied with the outcome of that trial. And the man who unalived his daughter is out free now, to the best of my knowledge, living his life and walking around as if nothing has happened. And so whether you think that's okay or not, that's up to you. But Dominick Dunne definitely did not think it was okay. So he tends to side on the, on the side of prosecuting the accused. So back to the article. If you can get away with it, the stench of O.J. Simpson's acquittal grows stronger by the week as allegations of jury tampering abound and reports surface concerning a flunked polygraph test taken by Simpson 2 days after the M's unalivings in the company of 2 of his attorneys. Although the results were thought to have been destroyed, I am told that a copy exists. And then, as if that weren't enough, came the extraordinary moment during the penalty phase of the second Menendez trial, when Leslie Abramson, the zealous defense attorney for Erik Menendez, was brought down with a resounding crash which stunned the legal profession and could possibly end with her disbarment, when her own expert witness, Dr. William Vickery, testified on the stand to prosecutor David Kahn that changes in his notes had been made at Abramson's request because she believed his original notes were prejudicial to her client. We'll get to this in sequence. Now, my comment is, I'm pretty sure Leslie Abramson did get in trouble for that very act. I don't know if she was disbarred. She continued to practice law. I think she maybe had like a suspension or something like that. I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure she got in trouble for that, but continued to be a lawyer. Okay, so there is a quote. If there's another hung jury, look for my name in the obituaries. Detective Les Zoller, who has been on the Menendez case since the night of the M's unalivings 7 years ago and has sat through both trials. I don't believe I have seen any of that detective's testimony, but on that Court TV page over here, the courttv.com, they have like a trials archive where you can go and watch these things. And Zoller is, I saw his name. Where are you, Zoller? He's somewhere in here in the testimony. Not that it's that important right now, I suppose, but oh, there you go. That's not him. His name is on there. This guy, Leslie Zoller. Leslie, male, not female. Okay, back to the article. Okay, so OJ. Okay, since OJ Simpson was arrested for the M's unalivings of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman on June 17, 1994, his case has so eclipsed the Menendez saga that most people were unaware that a second Menendez trial, not covered on Court TV, oh, interesting, had been going on for 5 months until the verdict came in on March 20. A jury of 8 men and 4 women found the used-to-be-rich brothers guilty of M, unalive, of both parents in the first degree with special circumstances, lying in wait, and multiple unalivings. Okay, I guess the reason why they couldn't cover it is because Court TV was just a cable channel and they only had one channel, so they could only cover one trial at a time. It's not like now where you can have, well, Court TV has their own domain, their own website. They can run as many trials, I suppose, as they see fit and are willing to afford the bandwidth to host. And if you're like Law and Crime, is that it? Dan Abrams' channel? You can run, again, as many streams, I suppose, of as many trials as you see fit. I don't know if YouTube will throttle them, but probably not Dan Abrams. He, I'm sure, has a good relationship with YouTube. Is it Law and Crime? Is that his channel? I can't remember the name of it, but it's like one of the biggest law streaming channels. Official, I guess, sort of mainstream. Is it main? Does that count as mainstream media? I'm not really sure. He's a very mainstream guy, so I'll go with sort of, yes. Okay, back to the article. Lyle and Erik Menendez knew before they sat down that day that the jurors had arrived at a verdict, even though Leslie Abramson, in her closing argument, had virtually begged for a hung jury. It is better to not render a verdict than it is to render an unjust one or a compromise, she had said. They also knew there was no possibility that the verdict was going to be an acquittal, so they were prepared for bad news. The moment after the verdict was read by court clerk Penny Tennell was breathtaking in its silence. There was not so much as a gasp heard. Even Maria Menendez, the mother of the unalived Jose Menendez, and the grandmother of his unalivers, who had been known to make the occasional fuss, simply sat there bravely mute. There were no breakdowns on the defense side or any traces of jubilation on the prosecution side. Well, they basically did a do-over and got more or less the same result. Well, not, I guess, if it was a hung jury the first time around, but not the same, but they didn't get a win. Well, the defense didn't get a win, is sort of the same thing. Leslie Abramson looked over at Erik, but said nothing. Charles Gessler, who represented Lyle, placed his hand on Lyle's back, but said nothing. David Kahn did not exchange even a look with Carol Najera, the second prosecutor. Then Erik, ashen-faced, old beyond his 25 years, turned to his grandmother and mouthed the words, "I love you." And Movie of the Week in the chat says, yes, it's Law and Crime. Thank you, Movie of the Week. Okay, back to the article. It was heartbreakingly sad. I wanted to get out of that courtroom. I didn't want to talk to anybody about what had just happened, not even to David Kahn, to congratulate him on the brilliant job he had done by pointing out to the jury over and over again in that should be his closing argument, the absurdities of the defense case. I'm slightly surprised that Dominick Dunne has described this as heartbreaking or heartbreakingly sad, because in not the article that we just read earlier on this stream, but the previous stream, the article number 3, he was, practically frothing at the mouth at the idea that the Menendez brothers could claim that they had any reason whatsoever to commit these crimes. So, I would think he would be glad, jubilant, perhaps, at least pleased, of course, recognizing that it's sad for, the grandmother is appropriate. Nice of him, I guess. Back to the article. David Kahn is an impressive figure in the courtroom, a presence to match Abramson, but altogether different. Tall and lean, 45, with a full head of black hair, he bears an uncanny resemblance to Clark Kent, Superman's alter ego, as has been frequently noted. Okay, I need to know, does he indeed look like Clark Kent? We've already had our Tom Cruise look-alike with Craig Signorelli. So David Kahn, let's see, I guess David Kahn Menendez. David Kahn seems like lawyer, prosecutor Menendez. That's... Okay, all right, we've got Superman at home. Does that look like Clark Kent? He looks like Peter Gallagher in this. That looks like Peter Gallagher. Are these actually pictures of them, or are these actors? Because I'm not sure what's on Monsters and what's real necessarily. No, thank you, Google. They are the real individuals. This is Carol. And this is David. Movie of the week says Cheesehead. Yes, it's your favorite, or it was your favorite, Craig Signorelli, who movie of the week in the chat calls Cheesehead. Movie of the week also says he was writing like they were the devil himself. Yes, Dominick Dunne in article number 3, our previous stream, he was writing as though the Menendez brothers had done something to him personally. Okay, anyway, I don't feel that David Kahn looks like Clark Kent, but okay. I guess I see where they're getting at, but they're really stretching, I think, to make he looks like, and then they're missing ones that I think actually do look like the people. Movie of the week in the chat writes, it looks like Phil Hartman portraying Gregory Peck as Atticus Finch. You know what? That's not bad. Yeah, I see that. Okay. And there you go. All right, back to the article. So now we know Superman, or rather Clark Kent. Excuse me, one second. Okay, excuse me. Oh, wow. David Kahn worked on the Roy Radin case. That's an exciting case. That was really bad. Back to the article. I had watched Kahn in a courtroom before during the 1990 to 91 trial, it's misspelled, of the hired Kayers, unalivers, who unalived, Roy Radin, a showbiz impresario who had briefly been a partner of producer Robert Evans in the ill-fated film The Cotton Club. Yes, and Robert Evans came up before in one of the Menendez articles. I think, was it number 2 or number 3? I can't remember. Robert Evans is a naughty boy. Oh, it was mentioned in relation to, I think, Heidi Fleiss, who had gotten busted for promoting Ladies of the Evening, and they mentioned Robert Evans as I think, possible client. But Robert Evans, he's quite a colorful character. Roy Radin was quite a colorful character, and the Roy Radin unaliving case is, wow, that's just full of... I don't know if I'll ever be able to get around to doing a stream on that, but that would be quite the doozy. There's a lot of things that go in and out of that. Okay, back to the article. I was struck then by his calm toughness and firm command of the case. The Kayers, unalivers, got life without parole. After the Menendez verdict, I received a telephone call from Kate Radin, Roy's sister, in Hawaii. She was ecstatic over Kahn's victory. I hope David gets all the credit, she said. All that I'm reading about out here is Los Angeles District Attorney Gil Garcetti, who, pardon me, he was big in the OJ case, because obviously he was the LADA. And is his son, Erik, currently still the LA mayor? He was the LA mayor. I don't know if he still is the LA mayor. As I've said before, I'm not an LA person, and I don't like politics, so not up on those things always. Back to the article. In this age of dysfunctional families and mindless violence, a verdict of any lesser degree than the one the jury came to in the Menendez case would have given the worst sort of message to the youth of America. So says Dominick Dunne. Now, I wonder what he would be saying as to what, well, I know what he would be saying, pardon me, as to what's going on now with the possible imminent release of the Menendez brothers. He continues, "What a waste that two young men who had everything the material world could provide should end up in this disgraceful state. At the age for a first fatherhood, neither will ever have, carrying the two words by which they will always be described. And the M word for unaliver, which I don't want to say, and convict. Whatever it was in their family that brought about the moments of madness that led to the brutal acts that ruined their lives irrevocably could not have been as bad as 50 or 60 or whatever number of years are left to them stagnating in a 10-foot-long prison cell. Now that they are stripped of the falsehoods that peppered their defense, the SA. Okay, speaking as me personally, I don't know that was a falsehood. I don't know that Dominick Dunne could say confidently that he knew that all of the SA claims were entire falsehoods, but the fear that their parents were going to K them, unalive them, none of which the jury bought the second time around, and left with the facts of what really happened on the night of August 20, 1989, and the days leading up to it, which only the two of them know, I wonder if they have come to realize how many options they had to deal with the hate they felt for their parents, other than the violent one they picked. Their father's older sister, Teresita Terry Baralt, whom I have always admired, told me one day in the courthouse during the closing arguments that her nephews, whom she loves, were horrified by what they have done. Horrified. But it's too late. For Leslie Abramson, who became a much-quoted celebrity during the first trial, the final verdict was a bitter defeat. She had always appeared ready to sacrifice Lyle to save Erik, whom she referred to as my most cherished client. Parts of her 3-day closing argument were so over the top that she verged on camp. She spoke with such passion for her client that she made winning an acquittal for a confessed K-er, unaliver, seem like an act of nobility, an overpowering presence, a creative storyteller, an actress capable of playing Medea. Not Tyler Perry's Medea. The Greek Medea? She fiercely dared anyone to disbelieve her version of the M's, unalivings. She ridiculed David Kahn's premise that the K-ings were premeditated, explaining to the jury that driving to San Diego 2 days before the M's, unalivings, to purchase 2 SGs, long bang bangs, with a stolen driver's license as identification was all logical behavior which had nothing to do with premeditation. Well, I mean, honestly, you can't argue the premeditation. It literally was premeditated. You can't argue that fact. There were times when you had to admire her sheer verve. At one point, she bellowed to the courtroom in her most strident tone that the prosecution team were liars who only cared about winning, not truth. Unlike Leslie, she's a delight. When David Kahn walked out of the courtroom into the corridor during one break, he jokingly held his hand over his ear as if he had an earache from Abramson's yelling. Detective Les Zoller laughed at Kahn's performance. The trial historian Judy Spreckles cracked, "Louder ain't necessarily better." On the other hand, Joan Selznick, a former daughter-in-law of the late film producer David O. Selznick, who sat in a section reserved for the Menendez family, had a different reaction altogether. "Brilliant, don't you think?" she said. "I think she'll get Erik an acquittal." Well, wrong. As if sensing that her case for Erik wasn't playing to the jury the way it had in the first trial, Abramson injected bits of autobiographical information into her arguments. She told the jurors about her immigrant grandmother, who had worked in a sweatshop and seen friends jump out of windows during the Triangle Shirtwaist Company fire in 1911, and then had gone on to be a labor organizer. Well, that's inspirational. She worked in that her grown daughter has an IQ of 165, that her 2-year-old son talks baby talk, and that her husband plays the lottery but doesn't win. She even brought in her physical ailments by telling the jurors, for instance, that she needed a break to take her medication. She also told them that this was probably her last trial and that it would be the ultimate tragedy of her life if she lost this case. Surely the jury must have been thinking the same thing a lot of us were. So what? She closed by asking the jury to hang if they couldn't agree to acquit Erik Menendez. That night and the following day, Erik and Lyle Menendez were back in headlines that Simpson had taken away from them, only this time the headlines were very different. "Menendez brothers guilty." And another quote. "It was the most interesting moment I ever spent in a courtroom." Judy Spreckles discussing the moment Dr. William Vickery linked Leslie Abramson to his deception. The flamboyant Leslie Abramson, who had become a television personality on ABC after the first trial, may have flamboyantly catapulted herself right out of a career in both television and law if she knowingly advised Dr. William Vickery, a psychiatrist appearing as an expert witness on April 4, to deceive the jury. This came to light during the penalty phase of the second trial, when the jurors who had found both Menendez brothers guilty of murder in the I said it, unaliving in the first degree, were hearing testimony to decide whether their fate should be death by lethal injection, I guess it's okay to say that, or life in prison without the possibility of parole. If you read the transcript of that day's proceedings, it seems apparent from Abramson's immediate objection to a question posed to Vickery by prosecutor David Kahn that she was cognizant that the jig was about to be up for her. When Kahn asked Vickery if Erik had talked of a conversation about what life would be like without parents, Kahn suddenly realized that his copy of Vickery's notes didn't jibe with what Vickery was reading. "I'm going to object to this," Abramson said, but Judge Stanley Weisberg ignored her. Then came the line out of Vickery's mouth that silenced the courtroom. "I left that section out at the request of defense counsel." Oh, there's Superman. Okay, I didn't even have to go looking for, Clark Kent, that David Kahn. "When did defense counsel ask you to rewrite your notes, leaving out material?" asked Kahn. "In preparation for my testimony at the first trial," replied Vickery. "And which defense counsel made that request of you?" asked Kahn. "Ms. Abramson," replied Vickery. "Did she tell you why she wanted you to rewrite your notes?" Kahn persisted. "She said this was prejudicial, and it was out of bounds, and it was not necessary," answered Vickery. And another quote, "This is how the universe responds." Judy Hilsinger, CEO of Hilsinger Mendelssohn, Inc., the public relations firm, discussing Leslie Abramson. And Movie of the Week in the chat says, "What? That's mistrial territory." Yeah, that's a real problem, because I think that's discovery, that you have to share all evidence with both sides in discovery phase before they go to trial. I am not a lawyer. I am just speaking on what little I may or may not actually know. But if you don't share all of the possible evidence that neither side, neither the prosecution nor the defense gets to make the decision as to what is considered evidence. So they have to share with both sides. The prosecution can't hold anything back. The defense can't hold anything back. They share with one another, and then they put it before the judge, and then basically the judge makes the decision as to whether or not things can go in if there is be admitted into evidence in the actual case. Maybe they do grand jury stuff. I don't know. I think the grand jury is just for the indictment, right? But then they go into what's allowed in and what isn't in pre-trial, I believe. And then, they go into trial and you get in what you get in, and everything else they have to, I guess you can on appeal complain about what the trial judge may have said. You aren't allowed to bring that in. So I'm pretty sure that's how that works. If you get rejected for the evidence at pretrial, you have to wait until appeal after the verdict of that first trial. Does that make sense? If I'm wrong, let me know. I prefer to be corrected and be correct in the future than to be wrong and let that stand. Anyway, back to the article. Within an hour or so of that fateful moment in Abramson's life, 11 people in California, some of whom had witnessed her humiliation in the courtroom, called me to say that she was ruined, that she could be disbarred. Vickery did not attempt to justify her instructions to him. But why should he? His career was also presumably in tatters. Who would ever put him on the stand again as an expert witness after he had deceived the court? Yeah, that's not good. Movie of the Week writes in the chat, think that makes sense. Well, thank you. I don't know if it does, but it sounds good, right? Back to the article. I don't like Leslie Abramson. Well, Dominick Dunne, I could have figured that out from article number 3 when he really seemed to turn on her. And he mentions her snubbing him publicly in front of other media in the courtroom, in the corridor outside the courtroom. And that really seemed to, if I had to guess, he was like, oh no, you didn't. And then he decided, claws her out, and he was going to go after her. If you want to see what I'm talking about, watch Menendez Brothers 3, the stream I did previous to this one. Okay, I don't like Leslie Abramson, says Dominick Dunne, and I know she doesn't like me. We sniffed each other early on, some 6 years ago, and didn't take to each other's smell. Back then, she said to me, the trouble with you is you always root for the wrong side. I told her, it's hard to root for the kind of people you represent. Among her past courtroom triumphs at the time was the case of a Pakistani doctor named Khalid Parvez, who had been arrested on charges of, can I say that? I guess, strangling his 11-year-old son and surgically causing him to go to pieces. More than 200 of them. Indeed. Abramson had tried to work out a plea bargain for second-degree unaliving. A plea bargain that's a typo in the article, carries with it an implication of guilt. The then district attorney, Ira Reiner, had turned her down, saying that the state was going for a conviction on first-degree unaliving. When the case went to, and it's a typo again, it says trail, not trial. That's the second time in this, I think, one article, or maybe it was the last article. When the case went to trial, Abramson won an acquittal for Parvez, who even received a round of applause from the jury. 200 pieces. Were they applauding his tenacity? His stamina? I'm confused. I think I will have to look into this case a little bit more and figure out why, how. Subsequently, she sued Parwez for payment for her legal services. Okay. The only thing that surprises me about the latest development is that such a smart woman, and believe me, she is smart, might have done such a stupid thing. Over the years, a lot of people have wanted to bring Leslie Abramson down, but in the end, she seems to have brought herself down. She had turned over to Dr. Park Dietz, an expert witness for the prosecution in the second trial. Oh, he's hugely famous in forensics, right? A box of documents pertaining to Erik. In that box were notes Vickery had made in preparation for the first trial, before they had been redacted by him. And those were the notes Khan had in front of him. Movie of the Week in the chat writes, 200 yikes. Yes. Dominick Dunne mentioned this once before in maybe Article 1 or 2 when he was discussing Leslie Abramson. And I still marvel that someone had to count the pieces. They had to count them and put the number 200 on a evidence document. That's beyond disgusting. Anyway, back to the article. Once he realized, David Kahn did, that discrepancies existed, he approached Vickery to see what he was reading from. He picked up the notes and studied them carefully for almost a minute while the courtroom sat in silence. Then he pounced. Subsequently, Vickery testified that he had made 24 changes. That's not a small change. It was just a fluke, some people say, a lucky accident, the hand of God, but the novelist part of me wants to interpret it as an intervention by Jose Menendez. Oh, good Lord. A novelist? That's bad writing, Dominic, not good writing. Bellowing his rage at Abramson for the monstrous, distorted picture she had presented of him and his wife. Hey, don't be sexist there, Dominick Dunne. Maybe it was Kitty. Maybe it was the hand of Kitty and not the hand of Jose who placed those notes there for David Kahn to find. Or maybe they did it together. Teamwork makes the dream work. At least that's what the brothers said. There was not an iota of proof to support the SM defense, not self-defense, defense, SM, Nothing but the word of the two defendants, both of whom are world-class liars, says Dominick Dunne. I never believed them or fell for their tears on the stand. Abramson's clear intention from the very beginning was to portray Jose Menendez as a pervert who SM'd her client for 12 years, right up to a night or two before the M's, the unalivings, in order to make the jury believe he deserved to be K'd, unalived. 8 of the things the brothers claim their father had done to them are chronicled in other people's case histories, in a book called When a Child K's, meaning unalives, by Paul Mones. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It is Mones. Moniz? I don't know. But he, who was an advisor to the defense in the first trial, the brothers' own aunt, Terry Baralt, who loved them but did not believe the allegations of S.A., told me during the first trial that they had both read Mones's book in jail. Baralt, who took the stand reluctantly during the first trial, told me she had said to Abramson at the time, "Be careful what you ask me, because I will not lie." If what the brothers said about their father was true, they didn't need to embellish their defense with other people's experiences. When Dr. Vickery claimed that the altercations in his notes were made at the request of Abramson, the jury was present to witness her disgrace. So were print and television reports, members of the family of the killers, and I think that's a typo. I think it should say, so were print and television reporters. That makes much more sense. Members of the family of the Kayers, unalivers, and members of the public. Her defense team immediately distanced themselves from her, as if she had been carrying a communicable disease. A shot on television showed her standing apart from her confreres outside the courthouse during a break, smoking furiously while they talked among themselves. Barry Levin, oh, that name, her co-counsel, told Judge Weisberg that he would advise Erik Menendez to ask the court to remove Abramson from the case. Her credibility in front of this jury has been so severely tainted and damaged, he said, that it's very unlikely that any of her arguments are going to persuade this jury. Charles Gessler and Terry Towery, Lyle's lawyers, argued that their client had been harmed through no fault of his own by Abramson's wrong call in putting Vickery on the stand with his altered notes. In what some experts are saying is a courtroom first, Abramson twice invoked her privilege against self-incrimination by taking the Fifth Amendment at the same time that she was trying to keep a client from receiving the death penalty. Her alleged deception not only plunged the trial into total chaos, but also cast her future into a doubtful state. And this is the lady herself, Leslie Abramson. Abramson, who is never at a loss for words, was, come back, unable to declare her reaction to Vickery's allegations until a gag order imposed by Judge Weisberg was lifted after the jury came in on April 17 with the sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole for both brothers. The following day, she gave her first extended interview to the Los Angeles Times, where her husband, Tim Rutten, is a staff writer, one of the team that covered the O.J. Simpson trial. She told the reporter, Ann O'Neill, with a laugh, "I don't know how commonplace it is to have your psychiatric expert turn on you and lie on you in the middle of a trial. He has a guilty conscience that he rewrote his notes. That's his problem." To which Vickery responded, "I know that's what she's saying, and I honestly believe that she remembers it that way. But that's not my memory. I would never, ever take anything out of my notes that I think is important." And Movie of the Week writes in the chat, "Wow, I had no idea this went on." Honestly, I did not either. I've mentioned in, I think, all of the streams, I don't think I mentioned in this one, so much that I did not follow the case. I did not follow the trial, did not watch it at the time. Really did not follow the print media coverage or even the television reports. Just, it's unavoidable to, you see it and you see the headlines, but I did not follow every little moment. And I mentioned this earlier, that the Court TV website, they're not paying me anything, but I just found it really interesting to go back and watch the clips of the actual trial. Like, this is the first trial. So I guess you would see Vickery, but not that exchange. But like this right here, I watched some of Diane Vandermolen. This is Aunt Diane from Mom's side of the family. And Marta Cano, I think that's her, from Dad's side of the family, another aunt. And the famous Dr. Oziel, who featured so prominently in, I think it was article number 2, the second stream that we did, who his mistress was such a prominent figure in this case. And anyway, it's also great on a completely superficial level to go back and look at all of the hairstyles and the clothing styles of the time of this is, early 90s, I guess. And it's to listen to, it's very ASMR, I have to say. It's very relaxing until that one moment when someone's beeper went off in the courtroom and the judge had to admonish, turn your beeper off, which was also very much time machine. Nowadays, judges say, silence your cell phones, and that's the kind of disturbance that happens in the courtroom, but a beeper. It was very of the era. Movie of the Week in the chat says, "Every time you say Oziel, I get the song Lucille stuck in my head." Well, it could be a worse song. At least it's a decent song. Okay, back to the Dominick Dunne article. I have learned that a criminal investigation of Abramson will take place. Prosecutors from her past trials who are still in the district attorney's office, revenge time, revenge, some of whom were eager to comment on her situation, I bet they were prevented from doing so by the gag order. One law enforcement official said to me in disgust, "The system countenances this sort of thing as long as you get away with it." Well, yeah, that is kind of how things work. I mean, everything from actual crime to, petty lies. If you get away with it, you get away with it. Okay. That's what getting away with it means. Not being punished. Okay. People in publishing circles are wondering how this will affect her forthcoming book, My Life in Crime, for which Simon & Schuster paid $500,000. Wow, that sounds low by today's standards, and I guess it would be. You would at least get $1 million now, I would think. Probably more. The title should still work. It has been reported that the last chapter will be Abramson's defense of her current situation. Okay, and I think that is the end of the Menendez specific section. And after that, the article goes on to talk about OJ, which, while fascinating, is not what we're talking about right now. So that's the end of what apparently was Dominick Dunne's very, very last article that he wrote about the Menendez brothers trial. And we are really, I am really missing the fact that he is not around to write more articles, because I know he would be flipping his lid or maybe even his wig if he needed one in his older age over the idea that these two gentlemen would be released from prison and have a little bit of time. So I am going to have to pull up another article. So 1 second while I get that over, pull that up. It is an article from this year, and it is, bear with me 1 second. It is entitled, How the Menendez Brothers Therapist and His Mistress Became the M Unaliving Trials Circus Sideshow. And it was from last month. Sorry, I'm still trying to pull up the article. And it was, I want to say it was from Town and Country. No, it's also a Vanity Fair article. It is a Vanity Fair article, but not obviously by Dominick Dunne, because he is no longer with us in this life. And let me pull that up. Here we go. This is the Circus Sideshow. Now, these two, Judalon Smith, the mistress, and Dr. Jerome Oziel, Dr. Jerry, she was the one who sort of outed them as having, the brothers, as having confessed that there were these tapes that implicated them, and that this Dr. Jerry was the therapist that their mother had recommended to the younger brother to visit as part of a probation situation for burglaries that both of the brothers had committed, but the dad convinced the younger brother, Erik, to take the fall for Lyle so that Lyle would be allowed to keep his place at Princeton University, which he quickly jeopardized by cheating on his Psych 101 exam or paper or whatever it was. So Dr. Jerry and the mistress whom he had while he was married to his wife. At one point, he moved the mistress into the marital home with his estranged wife, with whom he also had a co-practice, a co-therapy, they shared office space, and the two daughters that he had with his wife, and gave them both SGs, meaning long bang bang type, weapons, the same similar or same type of weapons that the brothers allegedly used in their crimes. It was wacky and wild, and go back and watch the other streams, listen to the other streams, and you'll hear Dominick Dunne's articles about specifically about these two. It was quite a trip. So Julie Miller, the author of this article, is revisiting this story. And here we go. The 1993 Menendez M. unaliving trial, subject of Netflix's Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story. I have mentioned Monsters so many times, I feel like I deserve a check from Ryan Murphy or Netflix. Thank you. Seemed like an open and shut case. Then defense attorney Leslie Abramson vowed to discredit therapist L. Jerome Oziel, and she was able to, thanks in part to his mistress, Judalon Smith. All right. Here we go again. As Ryan Murphy's Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story. Okay, so we know for a fact that Netflix is buying ad space on Vanity Fair. They must be. I don't read their print magazine, but I assume that half the pages in pages in Vanity Fair are for Netflix productions. Okay, back to the article. As Ryan Murphy's Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story recalls in its controversial true crime camp glory, the tale of Beverly Hills brothers Lyle and Erik brutally unaliving their parents, Jose and Marie-Louise Kitty Menendez, in 1989 was an American Horror Story. Oh, get it? Because that's Ryan Murphy's other series. Nice. It had all the elements to transfix a nation. Spoiled, attractive Beverly Hills brothers who made some seriously boneheaded decisions. Indeed. One wrote a screenplay about a character who Kay's unalives his parents. Both spent up to a combined $700,000 in the aftermath of their parents' deaths, and allegations of SA in the country's most elite zip code. Oh, and I have something to say about zip code. I have to make a little note of that, but excuse me, I need a water break. Sorry about that. Okay, and of course, yes, combined $700,000. That was $700,000 in like 1990 money, so it would be in the millions, equivalent of millions now. And allegations of SA in the country's most elite zip code, while those pulpy issues were at the forefront of the boys' 1993 trial. The boys. We're back to the boys again. I noted that in one of the ways in which I could tell that Dominick Dunne had turned between his second article and his third article on the Menendez brothers. In the second article, he was continuously calling them the boys, the boys, the boys, which appeared to be Leslie Abramson's branding of them to make them who they were, I believe, 22 and 19 years old each at the time of the crimes, and a little bit older than that, obviously, at the time of the trials, to sort of brand them as younger, more innocent, more naive than perhaps they otherwise obviously would have been. They did what they did. I mean, they said they did what they admitted to it, so not naive, innocent young men in that sense, but the boys, that making them seem like they were children, whereas using the term the brothers is, or, the young men, or Lyle and Erik, Erik and Lyle, he drops the branding in the third article where he really gets angry, really goes in for paragraph after paragraph about the toupee situation, and also recounts his snubbing by Leslie Abramson in the corridor. So that's entertaining reads, and you don't have to read them if you just go back and listen to the streams. You can hear me read them. So anyway, getting back to this article, while those pulpy issues were at the forefront of the boys' 1993 trial, the court case also featured two witnesses whose behavior was perhaps just as confounding, though not criminal. Menendez therapist L. Jerome Oziel and his mistress, Judalon Smith. Eventually, these two managed to temporarily steal the courtroom spotlight from Lyle and Erik. In fact, their testimony became such a circus sideshow that neither was invited back to testify during the brothers' second trial. Oh, that's interesting. And honestly, the others, like the random witnesses in trials, often become the more interesting characters. In the OJ case, obviously, people like Cato Caitlin, sure. Cato Caitlin became, more of a sort of a meme-worthy and noteworthy than a lot of the main characters, shall we say. I guess he was sort of a main character, but he was certainly a sideshowy character. And, in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, that guy, the painter or whatever, the guy friend, the older dude that Johnny Depp has a friend, he was very colorful. His testimony was very entertaining to watch to the courtroom and to, I guess, observers such as myself. These people make boring trials really come to life. So here we have Dr. Jerry and Judalon. Continuing with the article, Dominick Dunne, who covered the trial for this magazine, Vanity Fair, credited Erik's lead defense counsel, Leslie Abramson, for taking what was virtually an open and shut case of premeditated unaliving in the first degree, complete with confession from the Kayers, unalivers, and shape-shifting it before the public's very eyes. Oziel was the source of the case's smoking gun evidence, tapes of the brothers' therapy sessions, during which they described plotting their parents' unalivings. The perfect crime, they called it, as Oziel remembered. Abramson fought for the tapes to be excluded from trial. When she lost that battle, she announced that she would discredit the psychologist in every way known to man and God. Wow. During the trial, Abramson worked Oziel like a chew toy. She got him to admit he hadn't told the Menendez family, who hired him after the boys were caught burglarizing 2 homes, that his license was on probation by the State Board of Psychology because of what it called an inappropriate dual relationship, exchanging therapy for construction work done at his house by a patient. Abramson asked about a 1990 lawsuit Smith filed against Oziel in Los Angeles Superior Court, alleging that the psychologist, oh good lord, assaulted, ARD, meaning SA type, kidnapped and medicated her. Oh, and to be clear, Dr. Jerry was a psychologist, not a psychiatrist. So he's a PhD, not an MD. Only MDs are allowed to write prescriptions for medication. PhDs are not. So he would not only would it have been wrong and illegal for him to write prescriptions for medication to anyone, but if he had a relationship with a patient, which is what do you call it? It's not medical therapist ethics, I suppose, if it's not technically medical. He's not a medical doctor. You know what I mean? Against his license, it's also against the law to be giving them the medication, and unethical to have a relationship with your patient, and you're having a relationship with your patient that's unethical, and you're giving them illegal prescription drugs. Nice. He's got like a trifecta there of bad. In addition to her other allegations, the assault, the and kidnapping. When Abramson asked whether Oziel settled the case for $400,000 to $500,000, he replied that his insurance company did. Oziel had also filed a countersuit alleging that Smith developed a bizarre fixation and obsession with him. At the time, the state psychology board was accusing Oziel of engaging in an intimate relationship with another woman who worked in his home as a housekeeper. The old Schwarzenegger, yes. And said that he improperly gave her medication and assaulted her. Oziel denied those charges. It was also revealed during trial that Oziel didn't turn his Menendez session tapes into authorities. Instead, he put the tapes into a safe deposit box and, according to Smith, tried to extort money from the brothers by saying that paying him weekly, even if they did not attend sessions, would be good for their defense if they were ever put on trial. By the end of Abramson's days-long skewering, even she was bored, according to Robert Rand's book, The Menendez M's Unalivings. The lawyer told the judge that during her questioning of Oziel the following day, "I'm going to be briefer than I thought. I'm frankly sort of sick of him." Okay, did she say that in front of the juries? I mean, that seems inappropriate. Oh, movie of the week in the chat. Sorry, I missed your comment. You said she goes hard. Yes, Leslie Abramson does indeed go hard. Again, I said it on the last stream. If I were in a similar situation being charged, well, except for the fact that she violated her law, license by asking a witness to change evidence. Other than that, I guess I would have hired her to represent me if I were stuck in a similar situation, but not after that. Back to the article. Oh, and here we go again. This is Dr. Jerry right here. Oziel's testimony was so damaging to his character that in 1993, the LA Times reported that his cushy existence, he had a 6,000 square foot canyon home, a psychologist wife, 2 children, and a waiting list for his $150 per hour sessions, is not such a good life anymore. For Oziel, it is his reputation that is on trial. He faced state disciplinary hearings due to revelations in court. The revelations in court. In 1997, the Consumer Affairs Board of Psychology charged Oziel with a variety of offenses, according to a spokesperson who spoke to CNN, including sharing confidential information about his patients with Smith, having both a business and intimate relationship with Smith, supplying her with medication, physically assaulting her on 2 occasions, and engaging in intimate misconduct with 2 female clients. Oziel's attorney denied the last charge, claiming the women were not patients. Rather than go to court, Oziel surrendered his license while at the same time denying he engaged in any improprieties, according to his lawyer. He is not practicing psychology anymore and hasn't been for, several years. It wasn't worth the expense and interference with his life. And indeed, it appears that currently Dr. Jerry is working in marital mediation. He had a wife and some lady friends. I wonder how he mediated his own marriage. I don't know if he is still married to his then wife. She still bears his surname, and it appears she is still practicing, but I can't tell you if they're together any longer. I would guess probably not. Back to the article. The defense's greatest gift during the first trial may have been Oziel's mistress, an attractive woman who first reached out to Oziel in the hopes of getting relationship therapy. After she realized she could not afford Oziel's sessions, she became intimately involved with the psychologist and dysfunctionally enmeshed in both his marriage and the Menendez case. After Oziel broke up with her, Smith told authorities that Oziel possessed taped confessions from the Menendez brothers, and there she is on the stand. And you can watch her testimony if you go to Court TV's website. I actually have not watched either Dr. Jerry or Judalan yet, and I'm looking forward to doing so. Even though she had never met the Menendez brothers, Smith became a star for the defense. A spurned woman who claimed Oziel emotionally and intimately abused her. She testified about the, I'll spell it, SEXIOU That's not all one word. It's an IOU for intimate activity. She gave Oziel a contract-like document promising her devotion that, as depicted in the Netflix series, oh yes, let's get in another plug. Remember, it's called Monsters, was signed with the paw prints of her feline witnesses, Shanti Oz and Ishi Kitty. I repeat, she came up with an intimate activity contract that she gave to Dr. Jerry that was signed with the paw prints of her cats, one of whom is called Kitty, like Mrs. Menendez. Okay. I don't think that would hold up, I don't think that's legal. I just have to say, if you need witnesses, I would go with human, not feline. People who can actually sign at least an X, a signature of some sort. Back to the article. She had voice recordings backing up her claims that Oziel told her he was in the process of leaving his wife to be with her. Honey, that's what they all say. And all strippers are working on their nursing degrees, don't you know? In one, excerpted in Rand's book, the psychologist told Smith he was hopeful his daughters would be positive about her introduction into their lives. I told them all these things about you that I know will impress them, that you're the biggest crystal seller in the world. Wow, that's amazing. Yes, it did say that at the time that Judalon Smith was involved with Dr. Oziel, she was running a greeting card and crystal shop. And she also ran a tape duplication or dubbing business simultaneously. Hey, everyone, I guess, anymore has to have a side gig, and back in the day, I guess she was doing that side hustle thing too. Movie of the week in the chat says, Paw Prints? What the heck am I listening to? Crazy content. The circus sideshow that was the Menendez trial, other witnesses. They are in some ways more interesting than some of the other, some of the main case, I guess. It's certainly a little more lighthearted, even though it's pretty awful and disgusting too. But at least no one's dead between these two. His wife lived, the children lived, and yeah, I'm sure they were really positive about Daddy bringing his side piece home because she sells a lot of pretty rocks. Cool. Okay, back to the article. Perhaps most bizarrely, oh boy, I can't wait, Smith actually moved into the Oziel family home in 1989. Told ya. For what the family thought would be 2 days. As I recall, and they may be saying this was because Oziel thought that there was a threat to everyone's life. And so he decided the good idea would be to move the mistress in with the wife and kids. She ended up staying for 3 months. It wasn't romantic, but there was intimate activity. Smith said of the stay, before claiming that Oziel's wife and I were good friends. The Oziel family said that Smith rearranged their furniture. Oh, that's rude. I bet she also put the toilet paper on the roll so it hangs down against the wall as opposed to over the roll. Ugh. Terrible, terrible house guest. Will not invite back, I'm sure. They also believe that she went through everything in their home, according to Rand's book. Oziel's wife, Laurel, eventually spoke about Smith, saying at a news conference that the family had been held hostage by this woman in our home. You might want to take it up with your hubby. According to Rand's book, okay, this is also a lovely plug for Robert Rand's book, the family said Smith threatened to commit self-deletion, or tell police about the Menendez M's, the unalivings, if they kicked her out. But Smith said it was the other way around, claiming she felt like a prisoner of war at the Oziel family home and that Oziel threatened to commit her to a mental hospital if she moved out, which the Oziels denied. Okay, I don't know if it happened, but I can believe it. There was a lot of co-creation. So when everyone's pointing fingers at one another, I kind of half believe everyone and half disbelieve everyone because I know that they were working together to create so much nonsense. I don't know in each case what's true, but I know that everybody's kind of wacky here and causing problems and creating drama. They're all creating so much drama. Movie of the week in the chat writes, underhand toilet paper. Savage. Yes, it is indeed savage behavior. Okay, back to the article. Oh, wait, let me take a little sip of water. And while I'm doing that, if you're here listening to me read this article, go ahead, hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe so you can find out when I'm going to go live next. And I'm trying to decide what my next topic should be. I don't know if we can continue with the Menendez brothers, although I'm so tempted to watch, watch the Monsters show and perhaps the Netflix documentary. Maybe I will go ahead and watch those and then report back on my thoughts. And I'll watch some more of the Court TV clips and then compare and contrast, and maybe we can get some style tips, some old money style tips. Certainly aren't going to be getting any house decorating tips, as Dominick Dunne was very cruel to point out the quote-unquote second-rate furniture in the Menendez Beverly Hills home, which I thought was unnecessarily catty to say about people who are deceased and can't defend themselves. But anyway, back to the article. In 1993, the LA Times reported that the insane details of Oziel and Smith's relationship went on so long in court that one juror doodled on his hand during Smith's testimony. I'm imagining he drew like little eyes and a little mustache and made himself a little like hand puppet. He did perk up, however, when Smith explained why she never wanted kids with a therapist. Well, he was married to a woman that he had children with already, so that might have been one reason. Smith said, "I would not want children that look like Dr. Oziel." Ouch. Okay, lady. Oh, and it says that detail made it verbatim into Monsters. Nice. Okay, Dr. Oziel may have looked like that, but you chose to have intimate relations with the man who looked like that. I can't blame a man for having the face that he has, but you can certainly blame yourself for, being with him, despite the fact that, and she admitted, if you read, I believe it was article number 2, sorry, not if you read, if you go back and listen to stream number 2, in which Dominick Dunne covers in detail Judelan and, or was it article 1? I'll have to check. Their relationship and all of this. She knew that she wasn't attracted to him. She took one look at him and was like, ew. But then she just kept going along with this guy that she's like, ew, what? And he was married, and she didn't seem to even like his personality that much. Obviously, she felt like she was being held captive by him at one point. He's assaulting her. Never heard a real good reason why she continued on with this man. Dominick Dunne deems her attractive. She certainly was attractive enough to pull somebody not Dr. Jerry. Know your worth, Judelan. You don't have to go with a married man. And, Dr. Jerry. Ugh. Anyway, continuing on. Abramson admitted that Smith might not be the most trustworthy person to take the stand. She's a witness with credibility problems, and I grant you, she's got loads of them. Wait, the lady who signs a document with kitty paw prints? No. The lawyer said during a hearing without jurors present, according to the LA Times. Just like Oziel has loads of them. But as Dunne wrote of Abramson, she had a genius for creating distraction from the main event, diverting the minds of both juries away from the ghastly sight of blood, guts, and 2 dead bodies. The victims became incidental figures. Doesn't that always happen in these cases? Too often. The shabby love affair of Dr. Oziel and Judalon Smith took up weeks. After closing arguments, the New York Times reported that the Menendez brothers' defense team had been so effective that even the 48-minute tape of the brothers' confessions to a psychologist became a two-edged sword. The trial ended with 2 hung juries, one for Erik and one for Lyle. The brothers' second trial, which did not involve Oziel or Smith as witnesses and had limited testimony about the boys', there it is again, the boys', allegations of S.A. by their parents, ended with Erik and Lyle being declared guilty. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In 2015, Smith gave her first and only interview about her Menendez trial experience to the Reels channel's Murder Made Me Famous docuseries. Ah, how classy. She said she was surprised by the media's depiction of her. It was a little confusing for me the way the media was. I really didn't understand the attack I was going to come under for doing the right thing. Oh, poor sweet summer child. Smith admitted that she didn't immediately go to authorities when she discovered the confession tape. It took a long time for me to do the right thing, but ultimately I did. Yes, after you got dumped. She was also stymied by a paper reporting that she had loose lips. Uh-oh. As she said, "Excuse me, if that was your mother and father getting M'd, unalived, would you like someone to have tight lips or loose lips?" It's quite a statement. Anyway, Smith did not respond to Vanity Fair's request for comment. Reached by email, Oziel explained briefly why he's never publicly reflected on his involvement in the Menendez trial. "This case was over 30 years ago. I moved on a couple of months post-trial. My life is very satisfying, and it has no connection to this trial." Well, good for you. Good on you, Dr. Jerry. Oh, and that is the end of the article. There you go. So, Judal, and I did look it up, and the last that, Movie of the Week writes, Sick Burn. Movie of the Week is all in the chat is also telling us he is ordering a cable knit V-neck sweater. Make sure it is pastel movie of the week. I would recommend a pink or maybe lemon yellow or perhaps even a baby blue, a sky blue. So yes, movie of the week in the chat wants some old money style inspo from the old school 1990s Menendez brothers, or their fictionalized depictions in the 2024 series on Netflix, Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story. Send me that check, Ryan Murphy and Netflix. I'd be happy to take it retroactively for my inadvertent advertising on your behalf. So that concludes not only all 5, I believe it was, of the Dominick Dunne articles from 1990 to 1996 on the Menendez brothers trial, but we even managed to sneak in this 2024 article from Vanity Fair, not by Dominick Dunne because he's dead, and some New York Post articles. And I'm going to be wrapping up this stream in just a moment, so if you've been with us through this, as I've said it before, I'll say it again, hit the like button, go ahead and subscribe, and share this with friends, family, or any stranger you think might be interested in this sort of content. I'm not exactly a true crime person, but I do like scandals, and I particularly like them when they involve, old money, some old money style. I'll take new money, though, if it's a juicy enough story and a juicy enough scandal. So I have in preparation for future streams, there is a lot going on in the Norwegian royal family. They have some a member of the extended family who's gone off the hinges and caught some charges, some criminal charges. They have an interesting gentleman who is married into the family, and is there's quite a stir in that relationship, and some other things going on. And I'd like to catch up on that. I was working on that before I got involved with the Menendez thing, but I really wanted an excuse to read some old Dominick Dunne Vanity Fair articles, and so that was this. And I'm also working on an Ethel Kennedy memoriam stream. I have wanted to wait. I was working on it right after they announced her passing, and then the family were having funerals, and I felt wrong to do it at that time. And now we're about to, in the United States, have an election, a general election next week, I think, next Tuesday. And because the Kennedys are a political family, and I don't like politics, I don't subscribe to any politics, and I don't want to talk about any politics for the sake of politics, but politicians are going to come up from time to time, and the Kennedys are definitely interesting and definitely scandal-ridden socialite types, and that's right in my wheelhouse. So I'm going to wait until after Election Day to do that stream so that it doesn't seem political, because I don't want that to be a thing. I'm not covering the Kennedys because I have a problem with them politically. I just find them interesting. I promise. And let's see what else. Oh, I am going to go back and do some more on the Goldsmith family. I know that wasn't a super popular stream, the first one that I did, but there's definitely a lot more interesting bits and bobs to cover in that family. So those are some things to look forward to in future streams. And I thank you for joining me for this one. And I will see you on the next stream. I hope you have a good day. Take care.